Okay, students. So we will see the other topics in male genital system today. So what are the lesions you see in prostate? So before going to that, we'll see few aspects, anatomical aspects. You know that prostate is traversed by a urethra, a segment of urethral part, and that divides the prostate into different zones. So which are the different zones? This is a peripheral zone, central zone, transitional zone, and the periurethral zone. Okay, so these are those zones. Okay, and why these zones are important anatomically is different types of lesions or pathologies affect different zones. For example, the hyperplasia of the prostate, that is usually seen in the transitional zone. Okay, whereas carcinoma of the prostate is more commonly seen in the peripheral zone. Okay, so that's the importance of these zones, hyperplasia and carcinoma, and both of these you have to learn. Only the major pathology you have to learn in prostate is hyperplasia and carcinoma only. Okay, nothing more than that. Okay, so this is a normal prostatic gland with how many layers are there? The lining, there are two layers of cells. Okay, one is a basal layer and the other is a luminal layer. Okay, so that is a normal lining histology. And what is there at the center of the lumen? Here in this picture you can see a secretion. The secretion, that is a prostatic secretions, which is sometimes get solidified, and that is known as a corpora amylaceae. And that glands will rest in a fibromuscular stroma. And this the behavior of these prostatic glands, the prostatic lesions, are almost similar to that of breast lesions. Okay, when you study breast, you can just compare, because the glands are lined by two layers of cells in breast as well as in prostate. Okay, so that's a similarity. Now, few inflammatory conditions of prostate, that is acute prostatitis as well as chronic prostatitis. Acute prostatitis is not that common, usually caused by E. coli and other gram-negative rods, and usually is a part of acute erythrocystitis, any infection in the urinary tract that can be associated with this acute prostatitis. Okay, then acute neutrophilic inflammatory infiltrate, we can say acute inflammation, that means neutrophils with destruction of the glands as well as micro abscesses. So that is not that common, but usually the common lesion you see in prostate is a chronic prostatitis. Okay, so it can be either a chronic bacterial prostatitis or abacterial. Usually it is abacterial with evidence of lymphoid follicles, lymphocytic infiltrate, and there will be fibroblastic proliferation. So this also you can see in lot of older age group people. You can see in their USGs and all, they have written like chronic prostatitis, and also histopathologically also we also pathologists also give us chronic prostatitis. So that is nothing but a small inflammation of chronic inflammation of the prostate. Okay, and sometimes you can get granulomas also, like TB, sarcoid, any fungal infections, vaginous granulomatosis. All these conditions also cause granulomas in the prostate. Okay, so this is a granulomas in the prostate, and this is also not that important for you. Just remember that, okay, these granulomas you can get in prostate. Just know that, that's all. This is very important. This is a short note question for you, and also you have a slide spotter for your exams. That is benign prostatic hyperplasia. So that is the hyperplasia of prostatic stroma as well as epithelial cells. So you have seen the normal histology. The prostate has a glandular component and a stromal component. So both this glandular, that is epithelial component, and the stromal component will be hyperplastic. What do you mean by hyperplasia? There will be increase in the number of cells. Okay, and this increase in the glands as well as the stroma leads to the formation of nodules, big nodules. Okay, in the periurethral region. That is a common site. Okay, and that what is this result of this prostatic hyperplasia? So it will go and compress the urethra in the center, and that will lead to urinary obstruction, and that is usually seen in older males. Okay, so you see here the prostatic hypertrophy, Okay, it is also known as prostatic hypertrophy, but actually the pathology behind that is a prostatic hyperplasia, increase in the number of glands rather than the size of the glands. So previously it was known as prostatic hypertrophy. Actually, the correct pathological term is benign prostatic hyperplasia. Okay, so that will lead to restriction of the urinary flow. So this is a gross appearance. Okay, you can see multiple nodules on cut section. You can see multiple nodules with some cystic spaces. All those are dilated glands. Okay, so morphologically it is that I told you it is formed of nodules. Okay, and even the stromal cells as well as the glands, both of them, both of this component or one component alone can proliferate. Okay. So this is how it looks like. This is a big nodule. You can see the entire thing is a nodule, and inside that nodule you can see glands. Almost all of them are normal looking glands, but it is just hyperplastic. The number of glands are increased. Okay, so this is other picture. The number of glands are very closely packed inside that nodule, and these closely packed glands together form a nodule. Okay, so that is also known as a nodular hyperplasia prostate. Nodular hyperplasia prostate or a benign prostatic hyperplasia. And what is this structure? I told you the arrow mark points towards corpora amylaceae. That is a normal finding in a prostate. So this is a prostatic hyperplasia. Okay, that is glandular proliferation as well as the fibromuscular stroma also will undergo proliferation, and this is not a pre-malignant condition, that you should know. So usually your grandparents, most of them will have this if the grandfathers and all will have this this BPH, but you should understand that it is not a pre-malignant condition. It is just a hyperplasia, nothing to do with neoplasm at all. It is not a neoplasm also. It is just a proliferation of the glands and the stroma. Okay. Okay. So what are the complications of BPH? You can see that because all these complications are arising because of the compression effect, the pressure effect. So you can just logically think that okay, this prostate is enlarged, so it can cause a urethral compression, it can cause a bladder hypertrophy because the bladder is trying to push the urine into the urethra, so that will cause a bladder hypertrophy. Trabeculation of the urinary bladder. Why? Because the muscle wall, it is getting stretched, of the bladder is getting stretched, and that will lead to trabeculated appearance of the muscle wall. Diverticular formation, again, that is due to the pressure inside the bladder. And also hydroureter, if the compression is long standing, then that leads to hydroureter, bilateral hydroureter, and also a hydronephrosis. Okay, all these you can just think and write. Now coming to the pathogenesis of BPH. This is important because this itself is a short note, pathogenesis of BPH. Okay, that is related to the action of the androgens. The androgen is testosterone. So I will explain this with the help of this diagram. You can see here the testosterone which is coming and acting on the male reproductive organs, and this testosterone goes to both the stromal as well as the epithelial cell of a prostatic tissue. So what does it do in stromal cell? In stromal cell, it is converted to dihydrotestosterone with the help of this 5-alpha reductase type 2 enzyme. Okay. And what does it do? This DHT or dihydrotestosterone, it can go to the epithelial cell, or it can even act within the stromal cell itself, where in the nucleus. In nucleus you have this androgen receptors over the nuclear membrane, and this will go and bind, because it is an androgen, it is a different type of androgen, and it will go and bind to the androgen. And what does that result in? It will result in the liberation of lot of or transcription of different proteins like growth factors. Okay, So the growth factors, it is getting released, and this growth factor again it will act on this cell itself or on the stromal cell or the epithelial cell itself. So growth factors which is generated from the prostatic stromal and epithelial cells is acting on its own stromal and epithelial cells, which results in the proliferation. Growth factor results in the growth of these cells. Okay, so all these are because of 5-alpha reductase enzyme which converts this testosterone to dihydrotestosterone. So this is a pathogenesis, and so when these growth factors are more, what happens? The stromal and epithelial cell will undergo hyperplasia. So this is a mechanism behind benign prostatic hyperplasia. So this diagram you have to study well and you have to draw when it is asked for your exams. So based on this, the treatment also varies. That is, the alpha adrenergic receptor antagonists, also 5-alpha reductase inhibitors. So this is why you should know the pathogenesis of all these tumors or of all these pathologic lesions. Then only you will understand the pharmacology part. Why this 5-alpha reductase inhibitors are given in prostatic hyperplasia? Because this is a mechanism of action. Okay, it goes and inhibit this 5-alpha reductase so that this DHT is not formed. And also another important procedure which is done for this is known as TURP, that you will see in urology wards. Lot of patients are undergoing this TURP procedure, this transurethral resection of the prostate. This urologist, they introduce that flexible type of excision, this thing, and through this urethra. Through the urethra, they will insert this catheter-like thing, and through this urethra, they will resect the surrounding prostate, because that is a periurethral zone which is hyperplastic. So with that, they will remove bits by bits of this prostate, and they will send to the pathology department. So we will examine it and we will see the microscopy. So we'll give it as a nodular hyperplasia or benign hyperplasia of prostate. So that's how we diagnose prostatic hypertrophy or hyperplasia. Now another entity in prostate is known as PIN. Okay, PIN is nothing but a prostatic intraepithelial neoplasia. So just as your cervix, that is cervical intraepithelial neoplasia, this is also a proliferation of these cells within the prostatic gland. And this is a premalignant condition. Okay, so some of these cells will start showing features of dysplasia. Okay, there will be loss of polarity, there will be hyperchromatism, there will be nucleoli, etc. Okay, so that you just remember that this is a premalignant condition in the prostate. That's all for you. So we'll move on to the another important topic, that is carcinoma of prostate. This is very important because this is one of the most common malignancies seen in males. Okay, so 70% of the men in about 70 to 80 years, that is what the incidence of this tumor. And usually it is seen in elderly patients, I told you. Then family history will be there, and also there will be some environmental influences, hormonal influences, androgens can influence. Okay, because orchidectomy can cause also inhibition of this tumor. So androgen, as I told, it has some effect. It has some effect on the epithelial cells, which will result in the proliferation of the cells. So some role is there with the androgens also. Now, morphologically, it arises in the peripheral zone, I told in the first slide itself, peripheral zone, and that is usually palpable perrectally. So if they do a PR examination, they can get a hard prostate. Okay, and microscopically, because prostate is a glandular organ, it is the adenocarcinoma, that is a histological type you see. Okay, and another important factor that you should remember is there is a particular scoring system, and that scoring system is known as a Gleason's scoring system. So what is this Gleason's scoring system? I will tell you. So this is a picture showing adenocarcinoma. You can see glands, small glands, and this adenocarcinoma is graded with this Gleason system. This is important because it can be asked as a short note. it as Gleason scoring system itself. So you should know that this Gleason scoring is done for prostatic carcinoma. So Gleason's scoring is a best marker which helps in predicting the prognosis as well as the stage of the tumor. So, based on what is this Gleason scoring system? This Gleason scoring system divides the prostatic carcinoma into different grades, into 5 grades, based on the glandular pattern as well as the degree of differentiation under the lower part. So that is important. The differentiation, this subtyping is based on the glandular pattern and degree of differentiation under lower part. So there will be different grades. So grade 1 to grade 5. Okay, or not, it is not the grade. The term is actually score. Score 1 to score 5. We are giving for different patterns of this lesion. So the grade or the score 1 is a well differentiated type, and when you come to score 5, it is no differentiation. There will not be any differentiation. And almost all of these tumors, these prostatic adenocarcinomas, have 2 patterns. For example, the score 1 is usually given to a very low grade type of tumor, whereas score 5 you can get a very high grade type of cells. Okay, so if you get a biopsy with both these patterns or 2 different patterns in a single biopsy, okay, like I will tell you with the help of a picture. This is a malignancy. You can see the gross picture. You can see larger, enlarged size of the prostatic gland. Okay, and this is the carcinoma part. Okay, this is adenocarcinoma with well-formed glands, and this is also adenocarcinoma. See what is the difference between the first picture and the second picture. This picture you can see discrete glands, separate discrete glands, whereas in this picture you can see almost fused glands. The glands, there are glandular architecture, there is glandular architecture, but what is happening here? Here the glands are appeared as fused. They are coalesced to one another. Okay, so this is fused pattern. So this differs, the first one and the second one is a type of score. The score is different from this score. Okay, so that's the importance of scoring. And when comes to here, when you see this diagram, here it is, the cells are single, they are singly scattered, they are appearing as linear chords. Okay, linear arrangement, single infiltrating pattern. So they are having different scoring system. For example, this the first diagram I showed you, that is a grade 1 or the score 1. Okay, and the second pattern, that is a grade 5. Okay, and if you get these 2 patterns in one prostatic biopsy, the report will be like, if the prostatic biopsy is showing a predominant grade 5 pattern and a very few areas shows a grade 1 pattern, so we will give the final report as prostatic adenocarcinoma Gleason score 5 plus 1. Why? Because 5 is a most predominant pattern and 1 is a less predominant pattern, or the second predominant pattern. Okay, so that's how we report the prostatic adenocarcinoma with the Gleason scoring system. Okay, so that is prostatic adenocarcinoma 5 plus 1. Now we'll move to another slide. See the top diagram, that is Gleason score 1, and if you search any other part of the biopsy showing a different pattern, so we can't find any one. So all the area was 1 only. So that is 1 plus 1 equal to 2. Okay. Now the bottom diagram, again that is 5 plus 5 because entire tumor was 5 only. Single cells as scattered as well as in sheets. So that is 5 plus 5 equal to 10. Now the middle part, the diagram shows discrete glands, separate glands. Okay, so the predominant pattern as well as the common pattern, the whole prostatic biopsy is showing this pattern. So that is 3. The discrete glands, which is having some different features from 1, the score 1 is having scored 3. So here it is 3 plus 3 is equal to 6. Okay, so that's how you assess. Another thing is prostatic carcinoma is one of the carcinoma which shows a typical pattern of invasion, that is known as a perineural invasion, that involves the nerves. Okay, now how does it spread? It spreads by local extension, hematogenous, and hematogenous is also very important because it can reach the bones of the axial skeleton, usually in the vertebra. So in the vertebra it causes osteoblastic lesions. Okay, it causes osteoblastic lesion. Lymph nodes also it can spread into obturator perivesical lymph nodes. So this is osteoblastic lesion. Why? Because it causes bone forming metastasis. It the part of the area where it is deposited, there it is forming bone, that is osteoblastic. So that is the difference. That is a particular type of metastasis seen in prostatic carcinoma. Okay, staging is also important according to TNM system. It is staged to select appropriate treatment. Okay, different types of stage will have different type of treatment, and diagnosis is by rectal examination, transrectal ultrasound, also PSA levels. What is PSA? Prostate specific antigen. It is a tumor marker which is elevated in prostatic carcinomas as well as in chronic prostatitis also. Okay, so that is used in the diagnosis and management of prostatic cancer. You can take it down. This increase in carcinoma, BPH, infarct, chronic prostatitis, etc. The cutoff serum value is 4 nanogram. Okay, that doesn't indicate that it is always a prostatic malignancy because it is non-specific. All its conditions it is elevated. So you have to combine the clinical features, the examination finding, and the USG finding all together. You should keep in your mind at the time of the diagnosis. You can do a radical prostatectomy, external beam radiation, hormonal manipulations, etc. Okay. Now, lesions of penis. Okay, we'll rush through this topic because in penis you should remember few important topics, that like one is condyloma acuminatum is a benign type of lesion that is usually seen because of this infection with HPV, that is human papilloma virus type 6 and type 11. Okay, that is seen even in females also in the external genitalia, and it is seen as large warty lesion. Okay, warty lesion, that is condyloma acuminatum. This is very important because this can be asked for exams. HPV related lesion in your penis or even in the vagina, cervix, etc. Okay, then not cervix, vagina and the vulva. Okay, then malignant tumors, you should remember the malignancy of penis, that is carcinoma penis, that is a squamous cell carcinoma because the lining is squamous cell. Okay, so before that, that is a preneoplastic condition, carcinoma in situ, that is a high grade type of squamous intraepithelial lesion, and 3 different preneoplastic lesions you can get in a penis, that is Bowen's disease, the erythroplasia of Curette, Bovenoid papillosis. And these all lesions are the intraepithelial lesions, pre-malignant conditions, which are HPV 16 positive. So the different strains, as you learned in your cervix class, here also the strain which causes a carcinoma is different from that of a benign tumor. So in benign lesion it is 6N level, in malignancy it is 16, and the 3 preneoplastic condition is Bowen's, erythroplasia of Curette, and Bovenoid papillosis. Okay, so this is a preneoplastic condition. You can see the dysplastic cells just inside the epithelium, but it has not entered the, or it has not breached the basement membrane. Okay. Now, invasive carcinoma of penis. So it is usually seen in elderly age group patients, the late adulthood, and to the elderly patients. Slow growing, locally invasive with metastasis to the adjacent lymph nodes, inguinal, iliac, etc. Now, it is usually seen 10 to 20% in Asians, Africans, and South Americans, and circumcision confers a protection to this CA penis. That is seen because uncommon. The evidence is it is uncommon among Jews and Muslims because it reduces exposure to the carcinogens in smegma. And HPV 16 and 18 is seen in almost 50% of these cases. Okay, so the lesions of the penis are almost similar to the lesions of the cervix. Okay, you have an intraepithelial listing and HPV association. Everything is common with the cervix as well as the penis. Similarly, prostate, you have more similarity with the breast. Okay, the epithelium, the lining, the stroma, the hyperplasia, the carcinoma. Okay, not everything, but you can correlate both. Okay, so in the penis, you can see it begins in the glans penis, and it can be either a papillary lesion or a flat lesion. So this is how it looks like, a papillary lesion. Okay, the squamous cell carcinoma is this CA penis is your gross specimens spotted as well as your histopathology, this microscopy spotter also. So it's very important for you. Okay, then it can be a different type of squamous cell carcinoma, that is a verrucous carcinoma. So just remember these two names, so squamous cell carcinoma and a verrucous carcinoma. So this is a verrucous carcinoma, and okay, the microscopy is nothing. It is the same as of any squamous cell carcinoma you have learned in other classes. Like a squamous cell carcinoma will have squamous pearls or keratin pearls. Okay, keratin whorls, that is are the same. So all these will have that dyskeratotic keratin, which is arranged in the form of whorls with that malignant squamous cells, which is infiltrating. Okay, and this dyskeratosis with this dysplastic squamous cells is the microscopic feature. If you see keratin pearls, that is the differentiation, that is the clue to the differentiation, that is it is well differentiated squamous cell carcinoma. Okay, so always know that if you see keratin pearls, that is a well differentiated. Once you lost seeing this keratin pearls, once keratin pearls are not there in a squamous cell carcinoma, it is a moderate or a poorly differentiated squamous cell carcinoma. Okay, so that is CA penis. Okay, you should learn all the conditions of prostate, like BPH, carcinoma prostate, the Gleason scoring system, the PSA. Okay, and also in prostate, the condyloma acuminatum and the CA penis. So with that, we'll come to the end of MGT. Okay, thank you.